Name is Rachel Weinstein, and I am the coordinator of the Caregiver Coalition of Northeast Florida, which is an initiative of ElderSource. Today, we are going to be talking about the scoop on scams, how to protect yourself and your loved ones. We've got an awesome panel of experts. And before we get going, I just want to go through a couple of little housekeeping items, and then we'll dive into it. This session is being recorded to be posted to our website for those who could not attend. Please type questions into the chat box. It's actually the Q&A. When we have a Q&A session at the end, I will be reading from that section, and you can direct the question to anyone, to everyone, to one of the speakers, or to me. Due to the number of attendees, we might run into technical difficulties, so please be patient as we do our best to fix any issues. Once this seminar concludes, we've got 3 simple survey questions that are going to appear on your screen if you're joining us live. Please help us know how we did, what topic you'd like to see us address in the future by answering those questions. It really does help us. We read each and every one. So when we're done, it's just going to automatically pop up on your screen. You just answer those. They're really quick, take you 30 seconds or less, and we thank you in advance. Next slide, please. Activating closed captioning. Once the host enables live transcript, you should see the live captions come across the bottom of your screen. If you do not see the captions or you wish to hide the captions, select More at the bottom of the Zoom screen. You click Show Subtitles or Hide Subtitles. And if you want to adjust the size of the captions, select More at the bottom of the Zoom screen and click Subtitle Settings. To view the full transcript, click View Full Transcript. This option will display the full transcript off to the right as it is happening live. Okay. So the Caregiver Coalition of Northeast Florida is bringing you this event today. I'll tell you a little bit about ElderSource and about the Caregiver Coalition of Northeast Florida, which is an initiative under ElderSource. ElderSource exists to meet the needs of seniors, caregivers, and adults with disabilities, adults 18 and over with disabilities in our community. Our mission is to empower people to live and age with independence and dignity in their homes and in their communities. We provide information and referrals to community resources. We're also known as the Area Agency on Aging and the Aging and Disability Resource Center. We are a nonprofit organization funded by the Department of Elder Affairs, by the Older Americans Act, and by private grants and donations. And we serve 7 counties: Duval, St. Johns, Baker, Clay, Nassau, Volusia, and Flagler. The Caregiver Coalition of Northeast Florida is a program of ElderSource. Our mission is to elevate caregiving in Northeast Florida by providing resources and information. Caregiver Coalition, we do 4 to 5 events per year. We have events that are both virtual like this and in person, and our events are always free of charge. We would love it if you would join us. We send out a quarterly newsletter that you can receive. We have a Facebook page called Caregiver Coalition of Northeast Florida that you can look to for happenings and interesting articles, upcoming events, and so on. We have a website, which is caregivercoalition.org. And you can email me, rachel.weinstein@myeldersource.org. So let me now introduce our first speaker. I'm so excited to introduce Keisha Wilkinson. She is the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Consumer Fraud Protection Division for the Florida Attorney General's Office. Keisha travels the state of Florida. She travels the state teaching Florida's senior consumers about emerging scams and fraud that target their population. Her goal is to give seniors the tools they need to prevent becoming a victim. So important. She's based in Tallahassee, Florida. Keisha, welcome.
Thank you so much. Hello, And thank you so much for joining this presentation. I am here today to talk to you about some of the most common scams and fraud that you as consumers are most likely to encounter while you go about your daily lives. After we're done here today, my hope is that you'll be better prepared to identify a possible scam should you encounter one and know how to prevent yourself from becoming the victim of fraud. Now, next slide, please. Next slide. Right. This presentation is for information purposes only, and it should not be construed as providing legal advice or presenting a formal opinion by the Office of the Attorney General. Next slide, please. All right, before we get started here, I'd like to take a moment to tell you about our mission here at the Office of the Florida Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. Our mission is to protect consumers from fraud and other financial exploitation, and to prevent and stop unfair and deceptive business practices, and to accomplish all those directives without undermining the competitive process of trade and commerce. Next slide, please. So you may wonder, why seniors? Why do people target seniors of all people? Well, for one, abundance. Florida is the top retirement destination for our country. And unfortunately, scammers are well aware of this. Next is trust. The AARP did a study, and the study showed that our older population was more trusting than younger consumers. While younger consumers may ask questions about what they're purchasing and dive into it a little more, older Americans just pretty much trusted what they were being told. Um, so the study also revealed that physical and mental impairment was another reason that scammers would prey on seniors. Mobility issues, things like Alzheimer's and dementia, make decision-making capabilities a little skewed. And so our scammers are very well aware of this, and they target the population because of it. Next slide, please. Assets. Scammers are well aware that seniors are more likely to receive monthly income, such as Social Security, as well as pension incomes. And independence and loneliness. Did you know that some scammers will scour the obituary section looking for their next victims? Because these widows are now living alone, right? And if they're alone, they're more likely to open that door or answer the phone. And embarrassment. Seniors are often too embarrassed to ask questions or to confront a scammer or to consult with their family. And a lot of times our seniors are not even reporting these frauds. And so I want you all to remember, when you don't report fraud and scam, you allow an opportunity for that scammer to scam someone else. So it's really important that you guys report fraud and scam. Next slide, please. Normally I would ask by a show of hands, but I can't see your hands today. So I know many of you that do business regularly have filed complaints against businesses. It's very common. So many companies, both government and nonprofit, what they do is they collect these reports from consumers just like you regarding their negative marketplace experiences. And one of these entities that collects that information is the Federal Trade Commission. So they take these reports and they compile them into this, it's called a data book, and it's online. And this data book, it shows trends regarding fraud, identity theft, and other consumer protection topics. And they do this to create awareness about scams and fraud. And all of this information that I'm showing you right here in the next slide can be shown at ftc.gov. Last year, there were a total of 2.4 million fraud reports with a total of $8.8 billion in losses. Now, earlier I mentioned that mental and physical impairment were one of the reasons that seniors get targeted, right? Well, look at this graph. This graph shows the fraud loss percentage by age. Now, if you look, younger people reported losing money to fraud more often than older people. But when people 70 plus had a loss, the median was much, much higher. This graph shows you while victims under the age of 60 had an average loss of about $550 per person, the loss for those 80 and over was triple that amount, averaging about $1,600 per loss. Now, these two lists, next slide, please. These two lists show the top consumer complaints in Florida. The other ones were a national average. This is just Florida. And this is just the complaints that came into our office. Now, automotive related complaints were the top complaints of 2022. And these type of complaints can range anywhere from repairs to leases, title loans, and extended auto warranty products, or any service that they claim you need, but you really don't need. And sometimes it doesn't provide the type of coverage that it claims. Now, our number 2 complaint goes to builder and contractor complaints. Now, complaints against contracting companies range from firms that take consumers' money for services that are never provided, to firms that advertise cheap services and then try to upsell for new systems or pricier repairs. Make sure you guys consider the following when you hire a contractor to perform a home repair. Make sure you get multiple estimates, at least 3. And research that company thoroughly before you sign a contract or provide any type of deposit. And verify that that contractor is licensed and insured. Read and understand the contract that you're signing. Okay. Next on our top 5 complaints were timeshare related complaints. I'm sure many of you know what timeshares are. It gives you the right to use a vacation home for a limited pre-planned period. Now, the scams with timeshares can happen both at the time of the purchase, and they also happen when people try to resell the timeshare. On the resale end, victims of timeshare sales companies are contacted, usually over the phone, or they're mailed this postcard, right? And they'll ask them to call this toll-free number if they're interested in selling. And once they call, victims are told that the buyer is ready and willing to purchase their timeshare and get it off their hands. Yay, not so fast. They tell them all they need to do is pay these listing fees or taxes. However, after the victim pays the listing fees or taxes, the sale of the timeshare never goes through and the victim is unable to get a refund. Fourth on our list are moving related complaints. As a fast-growing state, Florida offers a variety of reasons for us to go from one end of the state to the other end, or just move here from another state. Unfortunately, some moving companies engage in unscrupulous practices that may end up in high cost or really poor service or not getting your things at all. So to protect yourself from these companies, remember the following. Again, obtain written estimates, okay? There are thousands, literally thousands of moving companies in Florida. So before you move, just get 3 written estimates. Now remember, moving interstate, those are priced according to weight and distance. Ask that company about their insurance coverage. And not only their insurance coverage, ask them about the type and extent of the liability insurance that the mover carries. Be careful when packing. If you do your own packing, please do a very complete job. Many of these complaints, they come about after the consumers unpack and then they find their goods damaged. Find out how long that mover's been in business. Research the past successes and failures with that company. One of the things I do before I shop anywhere, this is online or even if I'm dealing with any company, is I go to bbb.org. Better Business Bureau gives companies a grade based on the complaints that they get and how they're resolved. And then at the BBB site, you can also see what other consumers had to say about that company and they share their experiences, and they're helpful a lot of times. Now, banking and finance was our fifth top complaint last year, and these complaints pretty much range from excessive overdraft fees to mortgage refinancing. Next slide, please. So where do these scams happen? Well, truth is they happen just about anywhere. And certain scammers may even use multiple methods in order to deceive you. Scams can come in the mail through letters that may appear to be legitimate, but in fact, they're only advertisements disguised as an official letter. And it's used to lure you into contacting their company and providing sensitive information or for you to make a purchase. Scams even show up at your front door with pushy salesmen promising goods and services at a price that's too good to be true. Scams can come to your phone via text messages and phone calls, and you can find them online even when you visit trusted sites or checking your own emails. And we're going to go over each of these categories in the next few slides. Next slide, please. Scams in the mail. Okay, you're familiar with these, you've seen them. You've won a sweepstakes. You've won a grand prize in an international lottery. Your free trip awaits. Claim it today. And my favorite is your warranty is about to expire. So sweepstakes are some of the most common mail-based scams. And it's important to remember this, guys. Legitimate sweepstakes will never ask you to pay anything upfront to receive the prize they claim you've won. Now, if you're told that you must prepay for taxes, you're probably being scammed because taxes can either be withheld from a cash award or more commonly are reported by the company to the IRS. And when you declare that prize as part of your annual tax return. Also know that participating in a foreign lottery is against federal laws. Now, one way that you can reduce your junk mail is to register with the DMA choice. It's the Direct Marketing Association Mail Preference Service. You can register your name and your address by signing up online at dmachoice.org, dmachoice.org, or you can send them a letter. If you choose to mail your name and address in, they charge you $5. And if you do it online, it's like $1 cheaper at $4. But this protects your name and your address for a 10-year period. Next slide here, please. Now, these slides here are showing you examples of deceptive mail that was sent to consumers. Now, these deceptive ads will often have official seals, they'll have deadlines, they'll ask you to indicate what time are you available to receive that check. They may even have a local address to try and trick you. Remember, just because something looks official does not mean it's real. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if you don't remember entering a contest or have any doubts about the notice you receive, consider not even responding to the letter until you've had an opportunity to look into that company. Next slide, please. Now we're going to move on to scams at your door. Crooked salespeople will come to your house and make outrageous claims to get you to purchase home repair services that you may not even need. If it's a product that you may be interested in purchasing, consider these tips. Beware of high-pressured sales tactics. Take the time to do your research on the company. For safety reasons, do not allow these people in your home. Okay, no matter how pushy they are, do not allow them in your home. And lately, what they do is they'll have a tablet, like an iPad or something, and say if you say, no, I really don't want what you're selling, they'll say, okay, can I get you to sign your name here, declining that you don't want to buy it? No, they're capturing your signature. You don't have to sign anything if you don't want to buy something, okay? Luckily, if you do want to buy something that a door-to-door salesman is selling, there's a rule that helps protect you. And it's called the cooling off period for door-to-door sales. Basically, all home solicitation contracts must be in writing, and they must include a conspicuous statement of the buyer's right to cancel, meaning you should be able to see in writing how you can cancel what you're purchasing. You have the right to cancel a home solicitation sale until midnight of the third business day after the day on which you sign that agreement, okay? Make your request in writing and make sure you use a return receipt, okay? The seller must return any down payment within 10 days of that cancellation notice. And the buyer can keep any goods until the refund is issued. This is an FTC regulation rule. And again, it's called the cooling off period for door-to-door sales. Next slide, please. Okay, now take a look at these two slides. Water update and electric update. This company claims to have a water and electric update. But if you look at these notices, in that small print at the bottom, it says, this company is not affiliated with a public or private utility company. So again, if they're not affiliated with a utility company, what update could they possibly have for you? When in doubt, call your own utility company and use the number that's on your bill, not on this card that was placed probably in a door. And remember, a red flag is always being asked to pay your outstanding utility balance by a gift card or a prepaid debit card or even cryptocurrency. Your legitimate utility company would never ask for you to pay using those methods. Next slide, please. Now we're going to go over scams on the phone. So I know many of you have caller ID, and we have depended on that caller ID for years to tell us who's calling us before we pick up that receiver. Not so fast, because nowadays, people, scammers, not people, are doing what they call spoofing, where the caller ID may appear to be from a number, but it's not actually who's calling you. So in other words, you cannot trust what your caller ID says anymore because they are spoofing this. Scammers can make it seem like they're calling from even a local area code, but they don't live there. They can make these numbers look like anything, an IRS, the hospital, the police department. So you have to be careful when giving your sensitive information out over the phone. If you think it may be a legitimate company calling you, again, hang up and call them back using a phone number that you have for them. Now, some of these that are being spoofed are IRS scam, where they're saying they're from the IRS. The IRS would never call you. And another one, we're going to pause on this one because it's happening a lot lately, is the grandparents scam. The person you hear on the other end may sound just like your grandchild and not even be your grandchild. These scammers are using artificial intelligence to take your grandchild's voice, and they're doing it from social media. Your grandchild may upload a video talking, and all they need is a few sentences to grab your grandchild's voice and mimic that voice, and then call you. And it sounds just like the grandchild, but it's not. It's a scammer posing as your grandchild, saying that they need money and to send this money to a certain location. Do not do it. If you think that it really may be your grandchild, you hang up that phone and you call your grandchild back at the number that you have for your grandchild. Call that grandchild's parents and see where they are and dig a little deeper, because usually it's not the grandchild that's calling for the money. Not saying that your grandchildren don't, because they do sometimes. Okay, other on this list are the jury duty scam, arrest warrant scams, utility, debt collectors, charity, solicitors, imposter tech support, and even funeral home staff impersonators. This is a new one. They're calling with people that have just lost a loved one. Again, they scam the obituary section and say that we need more money than we have to finish the funeral services. Again, call the number that you have for these companies and get the information that way, because usually it's not the funeral home calling you for more money. It's a scammer. Next slide, please. Okay, we're going to talk about scams online. I know many of us go on the internet to shop and check emails and check in with family and friends on Facebook. Technology today is great in allowing us to stay connected with our friends and our relatives and do these things from the comfort of our home. Unfortunately, the same technology is also making it easier for potential fraudsters to target you. So there have negative option sales tactics. What happens in negative option sales tactics is they'll tell you this is a free trial, right? That at the end of the free trial, they may continue to send you a product and then charge your credit card. And you're trying to figure out, how do I get out of this loop? And these people make it harder for you to cancel these. Those are called negative option sales tactics. So when you sign up for these free trials, please be careful to know when your end date is and how you can cancel these free products. Now, in phishing scams, those are usually emails that are just sent out. If you see on here, these are two emails that are examples of phishing scams. It looks like it came from Amazon. That looks like it comes from the IRS. But if you look closely, the addresses that they come from are not the IRS, and it's not Amazon. These are phishing scams. Emails that are posed to look like they come from a reputable company, but in fact, they're not. And what they want you to do is click on those links that are embedded in those emails, because those links will take you to another website that'll take your information. Okay, so please be careful when opening emails that look like they're from legitimate companies. And remember, you're not going to remember every single thing that I'm telling you today. It's not important that you become an expert in detecting these, but what's important is that you're aware of how good some scammers are at producing realistic emails that are designed to trick you into clicking on unsafe links and providing your personal information. Next slide, please. Now, tech support scams. These happen over the phone and they happen in your email. And basically, they want you to pay for tech support services that you don't even need to fix a problem that does not even exist. Over the phone, they'll tell you that they're with reputable companies like Microsoft or Apple or Norton Antivirus. And they'll tell you that it looks like your computer is infected and that they'll need to remotely access your computer to run a free diagnostic test. Next slide, please. Now, once they run the test, they'll show you a screen that looks just like that. And once they have access to your computer, right? And they'll tell you, oh, looks like you have all this malware, all this spyware, okay? And it looks kind of scary. You're like, oh my goodness, I need to get this off my computer, right? What they'll do next is they'll offer to have a certified technician remotely repair this computer and install your updated security. Next slide, please. You'll also see one of these warnings. Warning, your computer's at risk. Call this number now. Don't call that number now. Okay, these pop-ups right here are designed to get you, motivate you to call them to purchase something that you don't need. Now, if you don't know how to get this pop-up off, you press Control-Alt-Delete at the same time. Doing that will initiate your task manager. Under there, you can delete and end the programs that are running. So you Control-Alt-Delete, you find the task you want to end, and you click End. And that's one way of getting these pop-ups off of your screen. But don't click and don't call, remember. Next slide, please. Now, next slide. Okay. Now, this screenshot that you're looking at is a confirmed order from a fake tech support service, and it looks real. This came from someone that was scammed and they sent it to us. So be careful of these high-pressured sales calls, including the ones for tech support. If they tell you that their company is affiliated with them, you hang up the phone and you call and you verify, okay? And if you think your computer may have an infection, just consider getting a local opinion from a store before you purchase services that you may not need. Because sadly, once you become the victim of a tech support scam, you're likely to be targeted again, usually by phone, because these scammers often sell your information to other scammers. Next slide, please. Okay, so 3 important words when you get those phone calls from scammers: just hang up. If you feel pressured to sign anything, you ask them for more time. No one should pressure you into a decision to purchase something. Sign up for the Florida Do Not Call list and the National Do Not Call list. That will save you from some of those scammer calls. And just hang up. It's not rude. If you think someone's scamming you, just hang up. Don't give them any information, okay? And you can opt out of your pre-screened and all of these pre-approved credit offers. Review your bills. Remember, if a scammer went into your account and only took $1 a month, and he did it to 1 million people, that's $1 million a month. So sometimes it's a small amount, but it's still your money. So just make sure you review your credit card statements as well as your banking statements very carefully. Next slide, please. Now, when you're online shopping, and we're going to shop online, you look for that padlock in the address bar of the website you're visiting. What that padlock does is lets you know that it's a secure site. Now, that padlock may not be on every site, but when you are submitting personal information, you need that padlock to be there. And you make sure if it's not there, do not submit credit card information or any personal information, okay? Read your contracts in full before signing. I know they're long and lengthy, but you have to take the time to read them before you're signing them and understand how to cancel, okay? Shred your documents. There are dumpster divers that actually go through the recycle bins at these dumps. And where do you find most of the mail? In some of those recycle bins. So please shred or burn your documents. Many counties and cities have shred events. So just check out this shred event in your local city or your local county. And check that credit report regularly. You can get a free one every year. Make sure that there are no charges on there or that you know you didn't sign up for. And know that if something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Next slide, please. Do not share your personal information unless it's absolutely necessary. And don't carry your social security card or number in your wallet, because if you lose your purse or your wallet, then you've lost your social security card. And we know how important that social security number is. Never use the same password twice on a website. Many of our phones, they have password, and your computer have password management systems. Please look and see what password management system your phone or computer has. Usually Google has it, and what they do is they'll create a password for you and they'll save it for you so you don't have to remember these passwords. Okay? Never include your personal or financial information in any email. Okay? And don't respond to unsolicited emails. If you know you didn't ask for information someone sent you anyway, just don't respond. And a lot of these email services, you can report the email that was sent as spam so that they don't contact you again. Make sure you're doing that and reporting these spam emails. Next slide, please. And always file a complaint. If you think you're the victim of fraud or a scam, you call that number 1-866-9-NO-SCAM. And you can also fill out a complaint online at our website, myfloridalegal.com. Next slide, please. And additional resources are for you on this screen. These are also places where you can file complaints and just get great consumer help. Next slide. And these are continued resources for you guys. And that concludes my presentation on scams. And I'll give the floor back to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Keisha. Wow, that was fantastic. I learned so much. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, we're going to have an opportunity for everyone who has questions to type those in the Q&A portion, and we will be reading those and answering them. So our next presenter, let me introduce him. John Rissler is, let me tell you a little bit about John. He does so much. He has been a U.S. Air Force captain, an HR director, and a dedicated SHINE volunteer with ElderSource for 10 years. For those of you who don't know what SHINE stands for, it stands for Serving Health Insurance Needs of Elders. For 8 years, he has been the SHINE area coordinator for St. Johns County, providing SHINE and SMP, which stands for Senior Medicare Patrol, counseling sessions at the Council on Aging and several libraries in the area. Since 2018, John has led the SMP program as the leader of the PSA for SHINE Medicare Patrol Task Force and oversees and mentors 12 to 15 SHINE volunteers a year. So I am going to give this presentation over to John. I'm going to switch slide decks. He has his own. So Jessica in the background is controlling that. There it goes. Perfect. So John, I'm going to give you the floor now.
Thank you, Rachel.
Absolutely.
You read that right up just the way I wrote it. Hello, everyone. Even though I can't see you, I welcome you to the presentation, and we did learn a lot in that last one about scams that happen every day. I'm going to talk to you today on how to prevent healthcare fraud and abuse, a specific area of scamming with many different flavors and colors to it. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The Department of Elder Affairs in Tallahassee coordinates all of our activities in the state. Their vision is for all Floridians to live well and to age well, which is a good thought for all of us. The SHINE mission, serving the health insurance needs of elders, is to provide free, unbiased health insurance counseling through a dedicated network of volunteers, empowering seniors to make informed healthcare decisions. Next slide, please. The Senior Medicare Patrol mission is to empower and assist Medicare beneficiaries, their families, and you, the caregivers, to prevent, detect, and report healthcare fraud, errors, and abuse through outreach such as this, counseling, and education programs. Next slide, please. SHINE is a free program offered by the Florida Department of Elder Affairs in partnership with your local Aging and Disability Resource Center. Specially trained volunteers can assist you with your Medicare, Medicaid, and health insurance questions by providing one-on-one counseling and information. Our services are free, they're unbiased and confidential. We're not affiliated with and does not endorse any insurance company or product. There'll be a number at the end of my presentation that you can use to call our call center, and you'll be referred to a counselor. Next slide, please. The Area Agency on Aging we're one of 11 in the state of Florida. We're a local, Elder Source is the name of ours, and we're up in the upper right-hand corner of the state, covers 7 counties. We're known as Public Service Area 4. And they're independent, not-for-profit organizations responsible for utilizing government grants and other funding to reach out to elders. Next slide, please. SHINE counselors do a number of things. One, original Medicare, we can advise people on how it's, what it means, what their rules are, how it works. Next, we can talk to people about Medicare Advantage plans, the Joe Namath plan, and how you can understand those. We can talk about Medicare prescription drug coverage or Part D plans. Next. Medicare supplement insurance, or commonly known as Medigap. It helps pay the difference between what Medicare provides and what your doctor bills. We can talk about extra help for prescription drugs. Low-income individuals can apply to the federal government for assistance in paying for prescription drug coverage and reduce prices for drugs. Medicare savings programs are programs provided by the federal government to lower your premium costs for Part B and other insurances. Long-term care planning. Unfortunately, we do counsel in that area, but most of our people that we've counseled are way past the age when they can afford to buy long-term care insurance. So the planning is pretty much limited to things like finding caregivers in the family or local agencies. Finally, Medicare complaints and appeals. If you have a charge that Medicare dismisses or denies, or a charge that is somehow incorrect, you can use us to help appeal that decision to Medicare. It's a multi-step procedure, and we can walk you through all of those steps to get resolution. And finally, we deal with Medicare fraud and abuse. And specifically, Senior Medicare Patrol is the element of the organization that handles that. Next slide, please. Our SHINE counselors, and there are about 500 in the state of Florida, are the eyes and ears of SMP. Okay, and they feed all these complaints and fraud and abuse reports to us. But who do they affect? Well, it affects everyone. This is a $1 billion or more a year problem with taxpayer dollars being lost. The Medicare Trust Fund is at risk, as we all hear in the news almost daily. And the more money they spend to give to the scammers, the less money there is for you and I to have health care. We as beneficiaries also are affected by higher premiums. Every year, the cost of Part B goes up and up and up. There's less money for needed benefits. And there's a quality of treatment effect here, as we'll get to soon, where your medical record may be adversely affected and you may receive wrong treatments based on that record. Next slide, please. So the consequences of Medicare fraud and abuse include medical identity theft. This occurs when a beneficiary's Medicare number is misused, either by the provider or a supplier, or by someone posing as the real beneficiary in order to receive medical care. Such Medicare numbers are considered compromised. Medicare numbers are for life, even if stolen or misused. So a beneficiary whose number is compromised may be affected forever by false claims against his or her Medicare number. A recent example that I worked was a gentleman who had a name very similar to someone else's name. And when they checked into the hospital in Orlando, the emergency room people put in the wrong person. He had surgeries that were paid for. He had rehabilitation hospital stays that were paid for by Medicare. And the poor person who was not sick and whose number was being used had a very difficult time over getting that resolved. It took us several months, but we finally did. And he got his Medicare record cleared of all those charges. Health impacts. Receiving health care from a fraudulent provider can mean the quality of care is poor. The intervention isn't medically necessary, or worse. And we'll see some examples later of medical providers providing surgeries that aren't necessary in order to collect the funds from Medicare. And finally, personal financial losses. The excess charges over top of what Medicare pays for can oftentimes then be sent to a collection agency, and they will dun you mercilessly until you finally have to pay. So you need to be aware that there is a personal thing to lose here too. Next slide. So what is a senior Medicare patrol? You know, we don't go around wearing hats or badges, but we help beneficiaries prevent, detect, and report healthcare fraud. We help preserve the integrity of the Medicare program by making sure that the charges that are, that these people that are making wrongful charges to Medicare are taken out of the marketplace. We rely on volunteers to help perform that work. In Florida, there are about 100 senior Medicare patrol volunteers out of the 500 Shine volunteers. And we do research and reporting of these scams to government agencies such as the Inspector General's Office of the Department of Health and Human Services. They coordinate with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and both of them then coordinate with the Justice Department, and eventually people are indicted, tried, and convicted, and restitution is recovered. So what is it that we're looking for, and what should you be looking for? Next slide, please. Medicare abuse is the payment for items or services that are billed by mistake by providers, but should not be billed paid for by Medicare. Every provider has a person that uses about 80,000 different codes to bill Medicare. Oftentimes, they forget and they put in the code twice. Sometimes they put in a code, get interrupted by a phone call, go back and put in a different code than they should have put in the first time. Anyway, these mistakes and abuses occur, and they shouldn't be paid for by Medicare. Now, Medicare fraud is purposely billing for services that were not given, or to bill for a service that has a higher reimbursement than the service produced. The difference between the two is intent. Okay, did they intend to do this? Did they do it on purpose? Okay, and that's the people, we want to catch both of these, but we do want to catch the latter one because those are much bigger dollar amounts than the little mistake that someone in your doctor's office may inadvertently make. Next slide, please. So some examples. Billing for services or supplies or equipment that weren't provided. Billing for excessive medical supplies, unneeded or excessive x-rays, and lab tests. Obtaining or giving Medicare numbers for free services. Improper coding to obtain a higher payment. Claims for services that aren't medically necessary. Or using another person's Medicare number, or letting someone else use your number. Okay. I'm going to go off slide for just a minute and mention some of the ones that we have handled here in Florida. We are the #1 Medicare fraud location in the country. And some of them include the genetic testing fraud. This is where either at a health fair or over the phone or in the mail, you will be solicited to send a cheek swab in to have your genes tested to see if you have a propensity for cancer or an allergy reaction to some drug you might get in the future, or any heart condition to show whether you have a propensity for heart problems. This scam, the swabs that you send in along with your Medicare number are thrown in the trash. You'll never see the results. And the billings to Medicare range from $10,000 to $14,000 per test. Another one is the braces scam. You will be asked on the phone if your back hurts, and whose doesn't these days? And then next thing you know, they'll be getting you to send your number to them, or send it, tell them over the phone your Medicare number, and they will send you braces that Medicare will pay for. And that part of it's really is true. But they will start sending you box after box after box of braces for parts of your body that don't hurt. Your elbows, your knees, your ankles. And they get kickbacks from the brace companies, and it's a complicated scheme behind the scenes, but that's the way you're going to see it, as boxes will start appearing on your porch. Telemedicine. Telemedicine is a new area that came about and grew immensely during COVID, and the scammers on telemedicine are incredible. Even some of the doctors that we catch in the schemes aren't aware that they're being used by the telemedicine people to scam people. One of the newer ones is glucose monitors. You may not be a diabetic, but all of a sudden you start seeing charges on your Medicare account for glucose monitors. That's a fraud, and that's a scam that needs to be reported. One of the biggest scams of late is the COVID-19 test kits. You will get a charge on your Medicare for a test kit. They'll charge Medicare a couple $100. Medicare pays $94.08 per kit, and they will bill you multiple times. Sometimes you actually get a kit, but most of the times you don't. You just get billed for it. This program ended May 11th when the government program for free COVID test kits was ended. And, but if you have been a victim of that and have the documentation, please call the number at the end of the presentation and we'll be glad to report your particular one. Okay. Next slide. 3 steps to help prevent healthcare fraud. So next slide, please. Treat your Medicare card and number like a credit card. Don't keep it in your wallet. We recommend you keep it in a plastic baggie in a safe place in your house, and you only take it out and put it in your purse or wallet when you're going to the provider. Watch out for identity theft. Be aware that Medicare doesn't call or visit to sell you anything. Be cautious of offers for free medical services, and please pass all these advices on to all your friends and relatives. Do not give out your Medicare number except to a doctor or other Medicare provider that you are familiar with and you know. And again, don't carry that Medicare card unless you need it. Next slide. How to detect Medicare fraud and abuse. We recommend you use a calendar or a journal for personal health care. So every doctor's appointment is listed there on the date and the time. And after the appointment, you can jot down notes like the doctor did this, the doctor did that. This is what we talked about. This is what he recommended. That's helpful when you do the next step. You review your Medicare summary notices or MSNs. For those of you that don't have an online account with Medicare, they come quarterly, I think, sometimes more often. And you scan them for services you didn't receive, for any double billing, and for services not ordered by your doctor. Okay. And you can compare those to your personal health care journal. You can access your Medicare information at www.mymedicare.gov. You can build very quickly and easily a My Medicare account, and you can check your Medicare summary notices within days of when they file from the doctor's office. Next slide, please. Report suspected fraud and abuse. If you think it's a billing error, call the provider. It's a good place to start. And they will let you know and you can most of the time work out the details there. If they give you a hard time, report it to us and we'll get involved. You gather information and documentation. Anything that's sent to your house, whether it's a brace or a kit or anything, save the packaging. FedEx and UPS and the Federal Post Office put tons of information on a mailing label. And we can use that to research the providers and the scammers down to who owns them, where they live, where their offices are, what their telephone numbers are, all from the packaging you get in the mail. Make copies of your MSN. We would ask you to, when we get a hold of you, we can ask you and show you how to get them to us in a safe and secure way. And contact your senior Medicare patrol. It's free, it's confidential, and the people that are scammers, they don't know us at all. Once we put the report into the federal reporting system, the scammers can't see who did it and won't see your information either. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Oh, there it is. And here's the number. 1-800-96-ELDER. Or for those of you who are digitally inclined, 1-800-963-5337. If you forget the number, you can Google Elder Source on your computer and you'll find the numbers there. Next slide, please. Actually, I think that's the last slide. I'll turn it back to Rachel. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, John. That was really enlightening. Such important information. I'll remind everyone that you will you be able to view this presentation on our YouTube channel and our website, caregivercoalition.org. We might be able to email it out as well. We're checking on that. All right, so let's just go to the Q&A portion of this, our time together. A lot of you have written questions in the Q&A, so I'm happy to read those. And if you have any that you're thinking of as I go through, feel free to just type them in there. Okay, so one question we have from Francis: is it enough to report a fraudulent claim to Medicare? Not sure who that.
I'll tackle that. It's a good place to start, but Medicare's inundated with all kinds of questions and so forth, and so the person you get is not particularly responsible for complaints. They're a general answering service. It would really help if you report it to the Senior Medicare Patrol, or some people actually report it to the offices of Inspector General of HHS directly. We would be glad to take it. We will research it, do some of their grunt work at the beginning, and send in a report that's fairly complete and allows the professionals to spend less time doing the easy part and let them do the hard part.
Okay. Thank you, John. Anything to add to that, Keisha?
No, not with Medicaid.
Okay. So another question: do you have the contact info for Florida Do Not Call list and the National Do Not Call list?
I want to say it's donotcall.gov. If you give me a second. Yeah, it's donotcall.gov.
donotcall.gov. Thank you so much. From Jeannie, any comments on bank fraud? My sister had 2 bank accounts hacked and balances showed 0. Ooh. Bank replaced money and assisted her, but she, as a widow, was traumatized. Does she need to report to police?
Well, if she got her money back, the police, I would say, reported to SEC more than the police. They deal with bank fraud and things like that, to my knowledge. But she could always make a report with us if she'd like. But if she got her money back, then, I don't know, as far as what could happen beyond that, because we do help recover money. But if she's gotten her money back, then I'm not sure, other than notating that this bank, was it something within the bank? Was it an outside scam? I think all of that would depend. But she can always, most certainly, I always tell them they can always make a complaint with us and give us a call. We have Citizen Services, which is a room full of operators that, are there for you to answer any kind of question. And if it's something that they're not sure of, they will definitely point you in the right direction.
And that, no, I know that you've it's in the
Citizen Services
presentation, but yes, how would they quickly, is there a phone number or
yeah, give me 1 second. I have the card. Give me 1 second here. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. No, you can't see it. Never mind. So there's a toll-free helpline, and it is 866-966-7226. 866-966-7226. And they can also visit myfloridalegal.com. And if you go to myfloridalegal.com, we have a page full of amazing information for consumer protection. And you can also submit your complaint right there. There's a form online. FloridaLegal.com, 866-966-7226.
Thank you very much. Okay, we've got another one here. Let's see. Has the Elder Affairs Organization, I don't know if they mean the Department of Elder Affairs or Elder Source, ever been hacked? Not since I've been here. John, maybe you would know about that, or Andrea?
Years ago, in the early days of COVID, we were doing a Zoom meeting of the counselors, and someone hacked into that meeting until we learned from that how we could prevent that. That's the only thing I can remember, yeah.
Interesting.
But that was 3 or 4 years ago.
Hello, I'm Andrea Spencer, Vice President Communications with Elder Source. I might need an additional clarification on that. If the person has gotten a call from the Department of Elder Affairs or from Elder Source and they are not sure that it was either organization, by all means, we want to know that, but I'm not exactly sure what the individual is requesting, but we do not sell any client information. We do not share any information about our clients to any organization. All of that is HIPAA protected. So I can confidently say that when you call us in our helpline, that information is all safe and secure. So as far as I know, we have not. And if this individual who has asked the question believes that that might have been compromised, we definitely would need to know. And you can call us and our helpline at 904-391-6699. And I'm going to figure out how to put that number in the chat. But yeah, please let us know if you want to follow up in the chat and have any other clarification. I'd be happy to help you.
And our next question is, why doesn't Medicare verify a doctor's order for the billing? I recently received 8 COVID tests.
Okay, Medicare contracts with numerous companies to administer the claims. The claims come in electronically from the providers and from the scammers, and they use algorithmic means. If it meets certain requirements, then it's paid. If it doesn't, then it's denied. So the millions and millions and millions of claims that come in, they don't have the manpower or the resources or the money to call back to every provider to verify. Every provider has a unique ID number, and they have to provide that. So if they don't provide that, but the scammers can get those very easily. They set up phony labs, phony companies. So it's just a matter of volume. They just can't check on everything. And especially a program that was approved at the highest levels of government for free kits. They just were sending them out.
Wow. Thank you. That brings us to the end of at least the questions that were posted in the chat. Let me make sure that that's correct here. Yeah, looks like that was the last question. I can't thank everyone enough for your attentiveness, and gosh, we had such wonderful speakers today. I learned so much. We're going to be really happy to be able to get this to even more people who weren't able to join us live. We'll post it on the Caregiver Coalition .org website. We'll have it on our YouTube channel under the name Caregiver Coalition of Northeast Florida. An email will go out. It won't include John's slide deck. That's pretty proprietary. It will include Keisha's information. And so everyone will be able to benefit from this information, even if you weren't able to join us today, or if you were, you just want to absorb the information all over again or share it with a friend. Thank you so much to our speakers, John Rissler and Keisha Wilkinson. Thank you for our background technical support, Jessica Del Rio, and Andrea Spencer, who helped with a lot of the questions that appeared in the chat. And you will be receiving an email with a recording of the presentation. And like I said, it'll be viewable on our YouTube channel and on our own website. So thank you, everybody. Look forward to seeing you again very soon. Anything to add, speakers? Anything that you didn't think of before that you want to leave people with? Or Andrea, anything you want to share?
I do. You might want to mention the in-person event coming up on September 21st, a reminder about that.
Yes, we have an in-person event called Saving Clare. It's going to be held at the St. Catherine's Catholic Church in Orange Park, right off of, oh my goodness, what's the Kingsley Avenue. It's a really special, in honor of Falls Prevention Week, and actually that happens to be Falls Prevention Day on September 21st. We are having a special showing of a unique play about the consequences, how the different things can happen depending upon what happens after someone falls, to prevent it. And then, gosh, some of the things that can happen once someone takes a fall. And it's really an interesting play. One of the people who it's filmed, and we're going to show that, and then have some really interesting discussion and instruction. We're going to give everybody a free lunch. The event is free. We've still got room. It's I will put out there again another reminder, but everybody who joined this webinar today will also get notification of how to sign up, how to register for that free event on September 21st. It's going to be from 10:30 in the morning until noon, after which you'll be able to visit our organizational members from the community who will have resource tables to give you all kinds of free information on what they do and how they can support you, can support a loved one that you might be caring for. So we'd love to see you on September 21st. You'll be getting more information about it via mail, but also look at our social media. You register through Eventbrite. It's really easy. And again, it's free. So thank you everyone so much for joining us today. Look forward to seeing you at our next event, and please hang out, because as soon as you click off, you're going to get, in a second or two, you're going to get a little survey really quick, but it will help us. We read every one of your answers, and look forward to seeing that. Thanks so much, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.